Hey, welcome to another video on my channel. Good evening. This is a late night video because listen, I'm trying to warm up my car because it's cold and it's like raining out here, but I don't want this noise in my background either, so let me turn this off. All right, good evening, y'all. Welcome to another video on my channel. It's me, it's your girl, it's Sherry Monique. And listen, yes, we doing a nighttime video because I was in my study time. And I was thinking about what month this is. I was thinking about okay, we're in February, it's 2025. You know, this is my 9th year of being divorced, right? And I thought about that. I said 9 years of being divorced, right? 9 years of being divorced. And then I thought about the fruits of the Spirit. There's 9 fruits of the Spirit, right? It kind of just came to me. I've been divorced for 9 years, and we have 9 fruits of the Spirit. And that made me want to go a little bit deeper because I'm like, okay, well, what's happening? I've been divorced for 9 years. This is my 9th year of divorce, right? And then it just came to me, 9 fruits of the Spirit. It's not like I planned that, but it did make me want to dig a little bit more, right? And God told me that that's not just a number. It's not just a number. It's a God moment, right? If you ever felt like your journey did not make sense, yes, I have, right? Have you ever felt like you've lost too much? Have you ever felt like you should be further along than where you are, right? I'm gonna need you to keep watching. I'm gonna need you to keep watching because God is about to shift your perspective. God is about to shift your perspective. And I just want you to keep watching this video because what God showed me with this number 9 thing, I was like, okay, God, I see you. It's like, I hear you or whatever, right? Listen, 9 years of divorce. 9 years of divorce. And I started to think about that like, okay, what does that mean, right? 9 represents completion. 9 represents spiritual growth, right? What if this season wasn't just about what I've lost, but about what God was producing in me? Because I know I focused a lot on throughout these years have passed or whatever, I focused a lot on what I lost. I lost a husband. I lost a marriage. I lost the fact of that my kids would grow up in a 2-parent household, under one roof is what I mean, because their dad is still alive or whatever, right? I focused a lot on what I lost. I focused on, how it, especially the pain that it took me through or whatnot. And it took me years. It took me a long time to get over that, right? And I came to the scripture, Matthews 27:46. Matthews 27:46. And I have my Bible here. I'm going to read it. Matthews 27:46, it says, at about 3 o'clock, Jesus called out with a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lema. I'm probably going to mess up these words, but you can read it for yourself. Matthews 27 and verse 46. It says, at about 3 o'clock, Jesus called out with a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you abandoned me? Right? And Jesus died on the 9th hour, right? Jesus died on the 9th hour to complete his mission. So there it is, that number 9, that number 9 keeps coming up, right? Jesus died on the 9th hour to complete his mission. So then I was like, okay, well, the Bible says and at the 9th hour, that 3 p.m. So I was like, okay, I'm curious about that 3 p.m. because I'm like, well, when I count from when I count from midnight to 3 p.m., I'm like, that's not the ninth hour. So I'm like, how do I know that is the ninth hour? So I had to do some more research, right? Because how time was counted in the Bible. Time was pretty much counted in the Bible. The Jewish day started at sunrise, right? Jewish day started at sunrise. So Bible time, Jewish time, right? Sunrise started at 6 a.m., right? So pretty much the first hour is 7 a.m. You got that third hour being 9 a.m. and so on and so forth, to where you get that ninth hour being 3 p.m. Okay, then I started to get it. I said, okay, the ninth hour, I see how that came apart or whatever, right? And then 9 signifying divine completion and fulfillment of God's plan. God died on the ninth hour to complete his mission, which signified divine completion and fulfillment of God's plan. Just like Jesus' mission was finished at the ninth hour, my ninth year journey is a sign that God has been completing something in me. Man, God has been completing something in me for these 9 years. And I didn't really realize that. I didn't realize that. I definitely recognize there has been growth within me from these years. I definitely have seen growth. I've definitely recognized that I'm not the same person that I was 9 years ago, right? But I see it so differently right now. What if this past season was about God completing something in me? Divorce felt like an ending, but God was preparing me for something new, right? And then we go to the 9 fruits of the Spirit. Let's go to the 9 fruits of the Spirit. Over these 9 years, God has been developing something within me, right? And I didn't even realize it within that. And then I look at the nine fruits of the Spirit. Love. I'm learning to love myself again. Joy. I'm finding joy in my journey. Not just the destination, but I'm finding joy in my journey. And here's the thing, it didn't start off that way. It took this whole, that's crazy. It took this whole 9 years for me to find joy in my journey. That did not happen at front. That was not happening in the first couple of years, honey, because I was depressed. I was like sinking. I was like, man, I was praying that I would not go into a depression state. Like, man, but God has been developing joy within me, peace, me realizing that I didn't need closure from people. I needed peace from God. Man, that's so good, because yes, for a long time, I felt like I needed the closure. For the longest of time in these past years, I didn't understand why I was going through the divorce, because when I think back, and then this is like years ago, like I would think back and be like, well, yeah, we had problems, but our problems weren't that big that we couldn't get past stuff, or whatever. And for the longest time, I was looking for closure from somebody, my ex, who really couldn't give me closure. And that's the honest to God truth. That's the honest to God truth. He couldn't give me closure, because he couldn't really give me an answer as to why he wanted to divorce me. He couldn't, like, well, he cheated. That's the long story. That's the gist. I think I've talked about it in probably one of my old videos or whatever. My ex cheated on me, right? But he really couldn't give me a answer as to why he did what he did, why he didn't want to be with me. What did I do in the relationship that was that bad or whatever? And then I'm looking at this piece. I didn't need peace from I didn't need closure from him. I needed peace from God. I needed the peace of God. I needed to realize that it wasn't about you. It wasn't about you why he did what he did. Patience. Patience, another fruit of the Spirit. Waiting on God's best instead of rushing into something. Rushing into something. And that's something that I can say that I did. I rushed into my past marriage. I've only been married one time, I only been married one time. But I felt like I rushed into that. So God now, these past years, God had developed some patience, had to develop some patience within me, because I was very adamant about not rushing or not getting into something just to say that I was with somebody or just to have companionship. I didn't want that all over again. Back then, when I think back, I'm like, okay, well, I was thinking about my age. You know, I was thinking about, I do want to have kids. I don't want to be too older having kids or whatever. So I do feel like that I kind of rushed into something just to say that, okay, I'm married now. And throughout these past years, God had to develop some patience within me, kindness, extending grace, even when it wasn't given to me. Me extending grace even when it wasn't given to me. And I think back to my relationship with my parents. Right now, you guys know I did a video about a conversation I just recently had with my mom. Just kind of like you know, my mom, if you really tapped into my videos, you know that I don't have a relationship with my parents. And just recently I felt led to call my mom, and it was like the first time we had a pleasing conversation in years. Never had a relationship with my mom. But when I read this kindness, extending grace, me extending grace to my mom, it took for me to go through what I went through throughout these years for me to finally get to that place to where, okay, I can extend some grace. Even when it wasn't extended to me. Even when it wasn't extended to me. Here I am feeling like I'm being the bigger person in the mother-daughter relationship to my mom. I'm being the bigger person or whatever, and it's always me taking the first step or whatever. And I said, you know what? I said, okay, God, I see you. I see you. Goodness. Growing in my faith and character. Growing in my faith and character. I haven't been so, it took me to go through what I went through. It took the developing within me to go through what I went through, because I have definitely can say that I'm growing in my faith. I'm growing in my character. I've never been so tapped into God like I am in this season. Faithfulness. Another fruit of the Spirit. Faithfulness. Trusting God even when I didn't understand it. That made me think back to me sleeping in my car. I trusted God even when I didn't understand it. I was at my lowest. But I was trusting God in my lowest state. Gentleness. Learning to be gentle with myself after heartbreak. I had to learn how not to be so hard on myself. I had to learn, because for a period of time, I was like just upset with myself. Like, maybe I should have done this differently. Maybe I could have done this. Maybe I was nagging in the relationship. Maybe this, that, and the other. But I had to learn how to be gentle with me. And the greatest trait that I say that I want in a man is gentleness. But I had to learn how to be gentle with myself before I can accept the gentleness from anybody else. And I can honestly say that I've learned that. And then the last one, the 9th fruit of the Spirit, self-control. Not running back to things that God already freed me from. That's another thing that I look back on and I'm like, man, not running back to things that God has already freed me from. Because it's easy to go back to what's familiar. It's easy to go back to what's comfortable, right? But it took some time for me to develop some self-control, for me to get for me to see my self-worth and to know that, you know what? I deserve better. I deserve better. I don't have to go back to what was not satisfying me in the past. I don't have to go back just to say that, oh, okay, well, at least I'm not by myself. Nah. Nah, I see my worth now. Man, my next point, what God is showing me, this season was never about what I lost. This season was never about what I lost. It was about what God was growing in me. I'm not the same woman that I was 9 years ago. Man, God didn't just let the time pass. He was transforming me even when I didn't recognize it. Come on. Even when I didn't recognize it, God was transforming me. Man, and there's been days to where I'm sitting like, okay, time is just passing on. Time is just passing on. But in it, God was transforming me. Man, that's so good, because a lot of times we get frustrated when we're in our situations. A lot of times we get we think God is not moving if we can't see it. But God hears, listen, this is what God is showing me. God was transforming me throughout these years, and I didn't even recognize what he was doing. I didn't recognize the development. I didn't recognize the growth. Man, it took 9 years for me to see this. It took the 9 years for me to actually see it. Lord, you're amazing. Man, listen, if you are still in a season of waiting, listen, here's the encouragement. Don't rush it. If you are in a season of waiting, don't rush it. I know it feels heavy. Trust and believe. I've been there. I know it feels like, man, when is this going to be over? But there's something that God is doing. There's something that God is developing within you that you got to get. You got to get it. So don't rush it. Don't rush it. Man, God is completing something in you before he opens that next door. Before he opens that next door, you got to get everything that God is doing within you. Your whole self got to be whole. He can't give you the next door. He can't give you what he has for you if you're not ready, if you're not prepared. He got to know that you can handle it. Come on, listen. Last year, I said, well, last year, God, I was expecting last year to be my year of new beginning. You know, I was like 8 years, because every year I'm like, okay, this year, okay, it's 8 years. I've been single. Last year, I'm like, well, this is last year. I'm like, okay, well, last year was my 8th year of being divorced, right? And I was really in high expectation. I said, okay, this is my year of new beginning. This is the year. Like, it felt like that I was winning. I felt like that I was winning. I felt like new beginnings was coming. I felt like I just felt like that God was doing something new, right? I felt all the things or whatever. And then I'm asking God, I'm like, okay, well, last year was supposed to be my year of new beginning or whatever. And then I heard God say that maybe you felt like last year you were ready. Maybe you felt like last year you were ready, but I was still completing something within you. I was still completing something within you. So then I go back to this 9 thing. 9 is about completion, not necessarily an immediate fresh start. 9 symbolizes the ending of a cycle. But before something new began, God has to finish what he started in me. And then let's think about childbirth. Pregnancy lasts about 9 months. Pregnancy lasts 9 months before the baby is born. 9 months are about growth. 9 months are about preparation. 9 months are about formation, right? I may have felt ready last year. But God was still completing something within me. And let me encourage you with this. You may feel ready now. You may have felt ready last year like I did. You may have felt ready 6 months ago, 3 months ago, whatever that timeline is for you. But God is preparing God is doing something within you. Listen, if God's hand is on you, listen, I would rather God's hand to be still on me versus his hand not be on me. Because at least when I know his hand is on me, that means he's still working. That means he's still working. He's still developing me. He's still molding me. He's still preparing me for something. Man. And as bad as I want to keep saying that, last year felt like it was my year. I'm thinking that I'm stepping into something new, something fresh. And then that's the year that my whole world falls apart. Last year was the toughest year for me. Last year I experienced eviction. I walked away from a career after 9 years of being on that job. And there's that number 9 again. There's that number 9 again, right? Man. And oh man, God is so amazing. Then I heard God said, what if my eviction, the career shift, and all of the loss that I experienced last year, they weren't punishments. But what if God was pulling me out of places that I have outgrown? Right? What if God was pulling me out of places that I have outgrown? God had to remove the old to make room for the new. 9 years of being at a company. I walked away from a job, 9 years, and I thought I was going to retire there. I said, okay, I was the girl that always said that, listen, I'm good working a 9 to 5. I never had no aspirations and wanted to start no business. I never wanted to do that. Never wanted to. I was always the girl that said, I'm good working a 9 to 5. I have a consistent check. This, that, and the other. Wow. That goes to show you that our plans, listen, God's plans will always oversee our own plans. Okay? Because I had plans on retiring with that company. I had plans on staying in banking for the rest of my days. I did. I had those plans. Right? But God had to remove the old to make room for everything new. God had to pull me out off of that job because he had a greater calling for me. Hello, the She Collection has been birthed. I'm now creating journals that are changing lives, empowering women. Creating journals, creating a sacred, safe place for women to be able to write their thoughts, to vent and release, and to have a place to where they can feel affirmed and feel refreshed. Man. Me getting into my content, me pretty much creating content here. I would never be able to create and be as consistent as I've been still working my 9 to 5. I would come home from that 9 to 5 and be so exhausted. I wouldn't want to do nothing else but cook dinner for the kids and go in my room, change my clothes, shower, and chill and get ready for the next day. I would never be able to be creating these videos or be as consistent with my content, encouraging, inspiring other women like myself. I would never been able to do this, still working my 9 to 5. But God had to remove the old. Sleeping in my car. Yes, that was a painful situation. That wasn't pleasing at all. But it showed me that even in my lowest moment, I didn't break. It showed me that. In my lowest moment, me sleeping in my car with my kids for weeks at a time. I'm not just talking about one night. one night, 2 nights. No, we was in here for weeks. But it didn't break me. It didn't break me. God kept us. And my faith, and I just seek God the more. I seek God the more. Man, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand how I got in this state. I didn't understand why I was going through what I was going through, but I kept my eyes on God. My eviction. It's hard to see my eviction as a blessing. But sometimes we hold on to things that are familiar. Sometimes we hold on to things that are familiar, not because they're meant for us, but because it's familiar. Maybe God was redirecting me. Maybe God was redirecting me. The enemy attacks hardest before a breakthrough. The enemy doesn't fight what isn't a threat. The enemy is only going to come after who's a threat. Period. The enemy, listen, the enemy ain't worried about you if you're not a threat. Last year was my roughest year yet. Last year I felt like, man, it was another hit. It was another hit. It was another failed moment. It was another, man. Because the devil knew what was coming next. He saw the seeds God was planting, and he tried to shake my faith before the harvest. Sheesh. But listen, I am here to tell you that the devil did not win. Okay? Listen, here's the encouragement, sis. I need you to understand that this is not the moment to quit. I need you to understand that this is not the moment to give up. I'm going to need you to keep going in this. You got to trust the process. You got to trust that God is doing something within you that you may not understand at this moment. You may not see the finished product. You may not see what he's doing, but listen, he's doing something. He's preparing you. He's preparing you for your greatest season yet. It goes back to that overflow. It goes back to that overflow, man. That's why this 9th year is about completion. This is my 9th year. This is my 9th year of me. This is my 9th year of me being divorced. This is my 9th year. This 9th year is about completion for me. God is sealing lessons in me. He's strengthening some things within me. He's preparing me for what's next. And listen, he's doing the same thing within you. He's doing the same thing within you. He's sealing lessons in you. He's strengthening you. He's preparing you for what's next. God is finishing what he started, and what comes next is going to be amazing. But you got to stay tapped in. You gotta stay tapped. You gotta stay connected. You gotta stay connected. You gotta trust the process. You gotta understand that if God has not left you, listen, he didn't bring you this far. He didn't bring you this far till I understand that. I can understand that a little bit more now. I can understand that a little bit more. God didn't bring me this far to leave me now. He didn't bring you this far to abandon you now. Listen, I'm going to need you to trust the process. Trust the process. Listen, that's what I got for you on this evening. This video is a little bit longer, but I had to get out what I had to get out. I had to get this out, and I pray that it blessed you. I pray that it bless you. I pray, oh God, that this is not the season that you want to throw in the towel. I pray that God will give you the strength to keep going, to keep pursuing the assignment. You may not understand it fully. You may not see the direction, but I ask that God would open your eyes to see him in all things, to trust him trust him in where he's taking you. Trust the process. Trust the process. God is doing something. God is completing. God is doing something. He's complete. God is doing something. He's completing what he started within you. He may have started it within you 1 year ago, 5 years ago, 9 years ago. He's completing it. He's completing it. He's completing what he started within you. But you can't give up. You can't give up. This is the time to where you need to pray like never before. You need to get you some accountability partners. You need to get in your word. You need to listen. You need to meditate. You need to get into your worship time. You need to feed your spirit with the things of God. This is not the time to be around foolishness. This is not the time to be around all type of just chaos and negative energy and just being around a whole bunch of foolishness. Nah. I'm going to need you to stay connected into the things of God. Keep your mind focused on the things of God. You get discouraged, you get your journal and you start to write. Allow God to pour into you when you start to write. If you don't got a journal, I'm going to need you to go to the She Collection and grab any journal. I don't care which one you grab. The link will be in the description section. Go to the She Collection and grab a journal. You get discouraged, you grab your journal and you start to write. You get discouraged, you get frustrated, open your Bible and start to read a scripture and keep reading it over and over again until you hear from God. Get into your worship. Put on some worship music. Come to your car and pray. Y'all see me always videoing my car. I come to my car anytime. My car is my sacred place for me. This is not the time to give up. I'm about to get off this video, but listen, I pray that this video encouraged you. I need you to stay tapped in. 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 Listen, y'all have an amazing evening. Y'all like this video? Listen, y'all like this video? Share it with somebody who needs it and leave a comment. Y'all drop a comment down below. Listen, the way to keep the videos going and a way to build this community is to like the video, is to share the video, and is to drop your comment below. Listen, y'all have an amazing evening. I'll see y'all on the next video.